All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode number 255 of the Restoring Rapport podcast. We are super excited for the content we got planned out for you guys today. As always, this is a podcast for young believers who are pursuing the goal of marriage and family and trying to get married as young as possible in a healthy way. I'm your host, Seth Hensley. I come on twice a week, every week on Thursday and Sunday to discuss not only the importance of getting married young, but I try to equip and encourage you in your pursuit of that goal. And today we're going to be doing another article by Brett McKay on some more awesome date ideas for you guys to consider. We've been doing a lot of these. We've been making a lot of episodes on kind of different kind of dates you can go on with your significant other. It's been really, really fun. And I think it's generating a lot of value for my audience, which again is young believers ages 18 to 24 who are trying to get married young. And so this is going to generate a lot of value for you and your significant other as far as what dates you can go on. And the reason I do these dating episodes, in case you missed the episode where I explain this, is I kind of accumulate all the date ideas that I can find and ideas for those dates into one place and kind of condense it down into a very digestible 20 to 30 minute podcast episode for you to listen to and basically have everything you need to have going into that date to plan it. And so it can be, if you start wading through the internet links and videos and articles on how to do these dates, it can get really, it can become very hard work, harder work than I would say it needs to be. You can just kind of get lost in hyperlink after hyperlink. And so I'm making it really easy for you to basically get these good date ideas. And today, Brett McKay has, I guess, sent out a poll on, his audience's favorite dates to go on with their spouses. And the responses he got are quite interesting. He titled the article 15 Creative Date Ideas, and then he proceeds to list these date ideas that these men have given him. The first one, I'm going to kind of go through all of them, or as many as I can within 20 or 30 minutes, and then kind of go over the ones that I think are the ones you're going to want to do the most regularly or that I think are the most feasible. He says a night in Paris or Rome without leaving home. This one's from Emilio. He says, you decorate your apartment like a restaurant in a foreign country. Make it as cheesy as possible while keep it looking nice. Decorating is easy, using construction paper and cheap things you find at Michael's or something. So immediately my first thought is this is going to be something you want to do for a big occasion, because this is not something that's going to be very repeatable, because it's going to take a lot to pull this off. Anytime you're decorating an entire house for an event, you're making it super memorable, which is awesome. But if you're going to want to repeat this date a lot, this is not going to be one that you're going to want to choose, because it's going to be really hard to make that happen frequently. And what's going to happen if you choose a date like this to try and repeat frequently is you're not going to end up doing it, because it's going to be too big of a hill for you to climb during hard weeks and stuff like that with your spouse or your significant other, I should say, maybe not spouse yet. He says cheap and quick. Then you have a friend dress up like a waiter and speak in the accent of the country. That's pretty cool. Cook the themed food yourself and then have the friend wait on you too. He can buzz off after the food is served. It shows off your cooking skills, your romantic side, your sense of humor, and your creativity. I really like this date. It's just that it's so much to pull off that it's not going to be one you want to do if you're looking for a super repeatable date, because it's just super hard to pull off. His next one, he says, is fun at the Holiday Inn, from Bob. My wife and I have been dating since college. We are now both 40. Back then, in order to get away from the dorm, we would rent a room at an inexpensive hotel, bring a cooler full of drinks, snacks that you can eat in the bed, and candles. We would get out of bed once to go to dinner. 20 years later, a good night day for us is to recreate this in the comfort of our own bedroom. We send the kids to the grandparents and stay in bed all day and night. We spend more time sleeping and reading than we did 20 years ago, but still a good date nonetheless. So trying to stay basically in bed for 24 hours, that's a really interesting one. I've never even thought of that. Obviously, I wouldn't recommend this one to you if you are, the target audience of the show, which is young believers ages 18 to 24 who are not married yet. I wouldn't recommend spending 24 hours in a bed with your significant other, just because that's going to lead to things that I would say are not good for, how should I say this? It's too risky. Because you can get sexually involved with someone who has made no indication to you of any substance that him or her is going to stick around for any length of time. And so you're kind of giving them a huge prize without, asking anything of them, which I would say is always a recipe for disaster. His next one is X marks the spot, from Pat. After being in a relationship for 8 years and taking 2 years to recover, I started dating again a year ago this week using online services. I've gone on a lot of first dates this year. No matter who it is or what their background, I have found that taking a girl geocaching is the best first date idea by far. Geocaching is a treasure hunt involving a handheld GPS where people publish the coordinates of their cached treasure online and you seek it out. Girls love the idea of searching for hidden treasure. It creates a lot of interaction and many times it is a completely new and unique experience for them. It is easy to do, so you can hand over the GPS to them and let them go. And there is some amount of oxytocin, key to female attraction desire, that is produced when they find the first cache, a perfect time for a first kiss. I actually have never tried geocaching as a first date. That would be, I feel like that would be really fun though. Especially because it's a good outdoor date and going into summer now. At the time of this being recorded, it's June 2nd. By the time you're hearing it, it's probably later in June or early July. But definitely a good idea from Pat here. The geocaching, I think, would be a really good one to go on. Not a lot of prep involved. There's definitely an element of novelty and exploration. This is probably not something that she's done before, like he said. And it's something that you can do together, again, working towards a goal that you can then celebrate in having worked for it. He says helping hands is his next one. From Sean, volunteering together at a rescue mission or home for the elderly. So volunteering together is one that comes up all the time. And if you haven't heard my thoughts on that one before, I think it's a great thing to do, how should we, maybe earlier in the relationship. Yeah, but the thing I don't like about volunteering dates is you're not spending as much energy on getting to know the person. You're usually spending more energy on whatever task you're volunteering in. And so that's the one reason I don't actually like volunteering dates, is because I would like for my focus to be exclusively on my significant other and, for her focus to be exclusively on me and not on, whatever task we were trying to accomplish in the volunteering process. Volunteering is great. I'm not saying anything against volunteering. Like, it's a great thing to do with your time. It's wonderful. It's a form of service. But if your focus is not on getting to know a person, then I would say that's really the goal of the date. So this is really more like just spending time in the same area with one another, which is, again, awesome. But I would prefer my wife's focus be on me more on a date. But it is a great way to see somebody under perhaps a little bit more stressful situations or see how they work, which is a really good way to get to know someone, I suppose. So if you don't know how somebody works yet, it might be a good early date, something that you can do together to get to know kind of how a person works well with other people and how they work in, period, what their work ethic is, Love in the Great Outdoors is from Andrew. He says, a simple date idea, make foil dinners and take drinks and s'mores to your favorite hiking or camping place. Keep your drinks cold in the lake creek. If you have a watermelon, cool it off in the same way for a snack. Spend the evening skipping rocks and exploring before you build a nice fire and cook your meals in the coals. Spend some time by the fire making s'mores, and then find some place nice to watch the stars. We did do a stargazing date for you guys to consume. If you are listening to my voice at this point, you already have access to that. So just search Restoring Rapport Stargazing Date or Seth Hensley Stargazing, and everything that we've done on that should pop up. But especially the episode that we did exclusively on stargazing, how to do the best stargazing date of all time, you're going to want to go back and watch that before you go on this date. Whether you're watching on YouTube or on a podcast platform, it's still going to generate a lot of value for you. If you want to see the visuals that we're producing, you can go to YouTube and watch. Again, the link or the channel name is Seth Hensley. But if you want to listen just in the car or something, which is what I like to do, podcasts are going to be the way to go for you. Simple and romantic, very, very relaxing. He says he's from Oregon, and this is fun to do in small groups or with just me and his date, with just him and his date. There are variations depending on your local geography, etc. Spend time on the beach in the mountains watching the distant thunderstorm, etc. Really good one here. Stargazing is actually one of my favorite dates of all time for a number of reasons that I detailed in a past episode. So if you want to hear those again and you want to get good ideas for your stargazing date, go back and check that out. We give you a lot of really good practical tips on how to pull one of those off. His next one, he says, making the fire to win the affection of a beautiful girl is in our DNA. He's definitely appealing to the men reading this here for sure. Bonus, if you collect your own wood, bring a hatchet and make sure it's legal, obviously, and then light the fire with flint and steel without any propellant. If you use friction, even better. That would be insane. I don't think very many have actually used, made a friction fire with nothing but sticks, basically. That's absolutely nuts. I don't think anybody would, if you can do that, I mean, that's a really crazy skill, but I don't know many people that would endeavor to try that. They would bring fire starter and then a lighter, and then build their kindling, and then small piece of wood and larger piece of wood on top of that. They would never make their own spark using friction, which is crazy. But props to you if you can do that, by the way. That's a really cool skill. He says, love is like a fine wine. This is from James. Wine tasting at a winery set on a river gorge or overlooking some scenic landscape. This is a really cool sort of high-end date. I've actually never done a wine tasting with my significant other, Lainey. That is something that I would like to try in the future. So this is one that I can't really speak to from experience, but I can tell you I would imagine this being a good date. Number one, because your focus is still on experiencing something with the person. So it's not so much on other people during this event. It's definitely on you two. The focus is on you two. It's a really sort of fancy thing you can do. You could even dress up a little bit if you wanted to go to your local vineyard and take a tour or a wine tasting or something like that. It leads to a lot of conversation. You get to actually find what kind of wine you like, if any. I don't like almost any wine that I've ever tried in my life, so this would be a good opportunity for me to actually try and find one that I maybe like. But that's something you're going to want to know, especially for special occasions. What kind of special drink you want, you're going to want to have that information, prior to trying to figure out at the moment of the occasion. He says his wife and I have done something similar to this on the Columbia River in Washington State. They talk about the beauty of the landscape, life, dreams, philosophy, family, or nothing at all, and just take in the beauty. Overall, I think that's a really good date. I would rank that pretty highly on there, probably like an 8 or 9 out of 10. It's pretty repeatable too, as long as depending on the price of obviously the wine tasting event and how frequent they actually do these things. Sometimes they don't roll around that often. You're definitely kind of constrained by when they schedule those, because those aren't just happening, at least in rural areas, all the time. Like you have to probably plan for that and go at specific times in the year. Go Fly a Kite is from Alan. He says, flying a kite sounds a little kiddish, but hey, we got to let the little kid inside of us out sometime, and why not do it with the one we love? That's a good idea, especially if you live in an area with wind. I think that would be a good way to spend time together. Quality time, again, remember your focus is on the other person. It's not necessarily on lots of other people. When you're flying a kite, you're doing something together so that you can talk and do something. That's very important. And the next one is Where the Wild Things Are from Kevin. These were my best dates. Number one, he says, my girlfriend and I went to the zoo in the wintertime. Since it was cold, we were the only ones there, and lots of the animals, such as the polar bears and the tigers, were actually more active than they would have been in the warmer weather. That's a good idea. If you go to the zoo, go in the colder months so the animals are more active. They're up and generating more heat with their body instead of just sort of lounging and sunbathing in the sun or hiding in the shade somewhere in some far isolated corner of the zoo cage. That doesn't exactly make for a great zoo viewing experience. He says, along these lines, one of my brothers once took his wife to Disney World in the off season, and they were just about the only ones there. They didn't have to wait for a single ride. Again, that's going to be a really expensive high-end date, not going to be super repeatable, especially because it gets really expensive at certain times in the year. But if you're a big Disney fan, that might be something to do every once in a while, or at least once in your lifetime, to sort of memorialize that moment and create an awesome memory together. So yeah, but that's really good. His second one, he says here, is my girlfriend and I recently went to a playground after Mass. It was surprisingly fun to enjoy the swings again for the first time since elementary school. She seemed to have a great time too and keeps saying we should do that again sometime. So this one's kind of gets into specifics of what women like, and obviously every woman is different. So you're just kind of going to have to get to know your significant other and kind of figure out what she likes as far as something that she would like to do over and over again. But by golly, something we can learn from this one is pay attention to what she's saying she would like to do again. Like, if she's saying we should do this specific date again sometime, that probably means it went over really well, and she's going to want to do that one again. And you can even ask her after you've done several of these, just like, what's your favorite one that we've been on? Why? And let's do that again because you like doing it more. Is working hard with your hands is from Paul. He says the best dates have to be planned but flexible, adventuresome but enjoyable, creative but grounded. He says other posts have mentioned picnics, and that's a great foundation, but a picnic has to be somewhere unique. A skyscraper rooftop is preferable, but a greenhouse, library, or art museum are fantastic options if you have the connections to make it happen. Again, because of where we live, skyscraper rooftops are not going to be something in at least the rural area that I'm from, but he gave you lots of great options there. A greenhouse, which I'd never thought of, a library, or an art museum. Those are really, really cool. Even coupling that with just going to a library or art museum and then having a picnic afterward, I think would be great in a spot that looks stunning. And again, the number one tip, I say this like every single time I do a dating video, but the number one tip I can give you is make sure you've gone to the place and conducted the date that you're going to take this woman on prior to taking her on this date. You're going to want to know the problems that are going to come up. You're going to want to know the things that could get in her way. You're going to want to know if there are tolls, if there are fees. You're going to want to carry cash for things that don't have, you can't use a card for. You're going to want to make sure there's no mud, that you're going to want to make sure that there's no obnoxious neighbors or anything like that in the area. You're just going to want to do this date by yourself to make sure that everything goes well. And you might laugh at me for saying do a date by yourself. And that is just kind of a silly way of saying it, but go to the location that you have picked out for any date and make sure that you've done everything you plan on doing with a woman before you go with her. You do not want to be surprised on these dates. You want to know what's coming and you want to be prepared and you want to know how to solve problems that will come up. The last thing you want to advertise to this woman, especially if it's a first date or a third date or a sixth date early in the relationship, you're not going to want to advertise that you're an incompetent man who can't deal with problems and takes situations that come up awkwardly. You're going to want to present yourself as somebody who can handle tough things and tough challenges, and basically handle it well and as smoothly as possible. By the way, guys, this is the last episode that I will be recording in my current home. Lainey and I are moving literally tomorrow morning. So that's just a quick side note. I just noticed all the shirts and the moving junk in the back of this shot. So if you see that, just a heads up, that is not normally there. It is because I'm moving, and that is a very temporary situation. I don't keep my house a mess normally. And so I just wanted to throw that in there. But he says, after the picnic, it's time to pull off something stimulating. I'd shoot for a local factory or an artisan shop to take a tour of. I'd spent one of the most enjoyable afternoons with my wife at a bell-making foundry near Phoenix. Gugo Paulo Solere, if you're in Phoenix and want to check it out. He says a chocolate factory, a Navy pier. He's giving you lots of ideas here. He said a glass exhibit. He said lots of stuff there. Really good idea. Biking, tandem biking, helicopter, limousine, carriage, horse-drawn carriage. Where does he have access to that? I don't even know how he got his hands on that, but a lot of these are really cool novel date ideas that if you could actually pull off, it would be really cool. He says that they allow for conversation, but give the opportunity to pause and reflect on the experience. Again, I think these are all great ideas. I haven't seen him say anything that's not. I can speak to the tandem bike recommendation from personal experience. Lane and I actually bought a tandem bike that folds up and can fit in the back of our small, Hyundai sedan. And by golly, is that a fun date? I mean, people think it's hard, but it's really not that hard to get the hang of it. And it's something totally unique and novel that you can do with your partner. And again, you're together working to do something really fun that most people don't do. Really, really good date idea. And who doesn't like some wind in your hair? I mean, that's just an awesome date. He says after that, there's nothing but a shared dessert. Any restaurant or grocery store can provide the opportunity for fun. So again, he's recommending pairing dates a lot. So after the helicopter ride or after the tandem bike or after the library picnic, going out for ice cream or a shared dessert or something like that. You can't go wrong with that. Those are really good. Again, lots of talking opportunities. Talking is something that you need to have in the early dates, especially, I would say. And even in the later dates, I mean, you're going to want to have something where you can actually share an experience together and talk over it. He said that would be a date worth blogging about. And then variety is the spice of life. From Jason, he says the best date would be what my girlfriend and I did on our first date. He says he took her to a quiet spot in the woods next to a lake, but not too secluded so she could feel comfortable. That's an important note. If she doesn't really know you that well, you're not going to want to take her in the middle of nowhere. That's something I usually say. I throw in here if it's a first date for you. If obviously if you know this woman really well and she knows you really well, you can take her to more secluded locations. But just put yourself in her shoes. She's not going to want to be in a really isolated area with a man she doesn't know well, because that could put her in a vulnerable situation. And so you're just going to want to be aware of that. He says put down a blanket and have a picnic. The gourmet sodas score extra points with her. That's a really cool idea. You can do a fancy drink or soda, especially if you know one that she likes. After that, he took her mini golfing. Mini golfing has mixed reviews. Lots of people say good things about it. I personally don't like mini golfing as a date, but it's because I don't like the activity and you're rushed doing it because there's always somebody behind you who's busting your butt for basically trying to get you to move on to the next hole and not take your time, which of course is just a good way to ruin a day is being rushed and hurried. And so that's why I don't like it, because you're kind of vulnerable to other people, ruining the day. I don't like to put myself in a situation where I'm trying to treat Lainey really good and like take her on a memorable occasion and be able to talk to her and relax, and there's somebody behind me like rushing me. Like, I don't like that. So that's usually why I don't like mini golf dates. But he says, from Dan. This one is watching the world wake up. I met this girl and invited her to go on a date. We had some trouble picking the time. So I finally said, what are you doing tomorrow morning early? She said she was sleeping. He said, I'll pick you up at 5, bring a pair of hiking shoes and a bottle of water. Wow, that's an early date. He probably knows her well, I would assume, if he's going to say it that forwardly. Anyway, moving on. He says, the next morning I picked her up and we drove up into the mountains. I gave her one of my headlamps, grabbed my bag, and we hiked a couple of miles in the darkness up to this amazing lookout over the city mountains all around us. City and mountains all around us. We got to the top just as the sun was peeking over the horizon. Wow, what a stroke of blessing. As the mountains changed colors all around us and the city lights began to turn on, I pulled out my backpacking stove and made bacon and eggs and orange juice, man, on the top of the mountain. That is a killer day right there. What a wonderful, that might be one of my favorite ones that's come up so far. I mean, what an awesome date from Dan. Watching the world wake up. Very cool date idea right there. Again, I've never done something exactly like that, just because of the time he did it. He went to pick her up super early, which I guess if you know her well, that's totally normal. But I feel like that might be a little bit odd for a first date. Maybe not though. You know what? But that'd be really cool. I think I would like to do that. I don't know if, again, it might depend on your significant other. So just take these with a grain of salt and eat the grapes, spit out the seeds, so to speak. If something doesn't apply to your significant other, just throw it out. In this episode, but hopefully it's generating a lot of value for you so far. He says, the forecast: meteor showers with a chance of love, from Alan. This is going to be a stargazing one, I bet. He says, during the summer months, look online for days there are going to be meteor showers. That's really cool, actually. That's a really good idea. Go look right now, guys. Pause this podcast. If you're looking to plan a date, which I assume you are if you clicked on this episode, go look at the projected meteor showers for the month you're in, or as far out as it can go. I don't even know if it's a month. Look for the week. And then a beach or park is usually a good place, he says, away from light pollution. So you're not going to want to go in the city, but go somewhere rural. So again, make sure she's comfortable. Feel safe. You know her well before you take her out in the middle of nowhere. He says, try and get there before the shower is supposed to start. Bring along a blanket and lay underneath the stars. It is important to know that the area of the sky this shower will be in. That's good. Get a book from your local library and learn some of the constellations. You can also get apps nowadays that give you really, really hands-on tools of navigating the sky. The next one is Loves in Season, from John. During the summer, when fruit is ripe and ready for picking, take her to a fruit orchard, bring a blanket and a basket, go for some peaches or apples or oranges. That's a really good idea. He says, then lay your blanket down somewhere nice and shady, enjoy the fruit of your labor, have a picnic, and enjoy each other's company. Really, really good day idea. The biggest downside of this one is, again, it's seasonal. So you can only do these, like he said, during the summer or whenever the harvest is available of whatever orchard you're going to. And so that it's kind of a limited date. It's not very repeatable. You can repeat it in the long term of the course of years, which might make a really good date, to do for the rest of your life. But as far as making it something you can do super frequently, not going to happen very much, I don't think. But again, you could have several seasonal dates that you had in rotation, and then you could do them all. That'd be really cool. Lainey loves festivals. My wife loves festivals, and I still have yet to take her to a pumpkin festival or a strawberry festival or something. That's high on my priority list as far as seasonal dates go. He says, dance the night away is the next idea, from Brian. My girlfriend and I are both in college, so my idea had to be relatively cheap. So this is going to be a good one if you're on a budget. I surprised my girlfriend out of the blue with an evening of salsa dance lessons. That is fun. With half off pricing. That is fun. That is a good idea. Then a dinner to a dimly lit restaurant, and then a quick drive into the mountains where my favorite stargazing spot is located. We jumped off the top of my car and slipped into a sleeping bag together and watched the stars. That is a great idea. So salsa dancing and stargazing, man, what a combination. Really good. Really good. Love this. Quite a catch is from Jeff. He says, my best idea for the right woman, a quiet evening ice fishing. Well, that's for the right woman, obviously. I like how he included that as a disclaimer. Bring plenty of snacks and hot cocoa. Make sure the fish shack is warm, and bring along some soft music that she likes. Again, this is going to depend on not only your area, your geographical area, but also the season. So that might not be one that you can all do, super frequently. If you're looking to make this date repeatable, that's probably not it. But he says, and finally, some great general dating tips for Nate. He says, for the single Art of Manliness readers like myself, he says, I've been on more blind dates and first dates throughout my dating career than I care to count, but I like to think I've learned a thing or two along the way about how to make these successful. And naturally, being an avid, and I almost said Anatomy of Marriage because it's A of M. That's another company that I follow, but it's Art of Manliness reader. It's important to approach the process in a gentlemanly way. First off, don't wait until the last minute to ask her out, even if she probably will be grooming her cat and watching a movie alone on a Friday night. You can't call on Thursday night assuming that. Flatter her by asking her several days in advance. And for goodness sake, give her enough information so that she can prepare adequately for the date. He says, and lastly, especially for a blind date, practice the art of the mini date. Nothing worse for planning a whole Friday night out only to realize that there's obviously no connection within the first 10 minutes. Saturday morning breakfast is my personal favorite. No connection, 45 minutes, and you're out of there. Soulmates, then talk for hours and ask her out for a real date on the coming night. And then from Derek, he says, I like to stick to some simple rules. Set the right conditions. Put your cell phone on silent. Movies are fun, but I would prefer activities where you're engaging with each other, take a class together, go somewhere scenic and talk. More importantly, listen, but whatever you do to show your loved one that you're invested in her and your collective lives. A caveat to number 3, it doesn't always have to be a crazy complicated event. Number 5, be a servant. That is definitely a good idea to keep it in mind when it comes to these dates, which again, you have the opportunity to do by planning it. Like as a man, you're the one being proactive here and planning the darn thing. You're the one, hosting. You're the one facilitating this event. You're conducting everything in the date. So that is a form of service. Just make sure you do it well to the best of your ability. That's going to make a good impression. Again, if you want to go on these really, really cool dates, then you can't go wrong with that. I mean, any way you can show thoughtfulness, guys, is just wonderful. The things that my wife liked about going on dates with me was, yes, the experience, the talking and everything, but she liked to see effort and investment. That's what she really wanted to see. And a willingness and an ability to actually stick around for the long haul. That's another thing she was looking for. So that's great to keep in mind as you're considering and planning these dates, guys. But I hope this huge long list of things has generated some ideas for you, got your creative juices flowing. My favorites in this entire episode were the stargazing date, the mountain breakfast date. That one was amazing. And the salsa dancing lessons with, stargazing afterward. Those dates were just awesome, cheap, affordable, unique, novel, thoughtful. It provide opportunities for you to show off skills, give tons of time for talking, just all great dates across the board there. I would love to do any of those. And of course the tandem biking, I can't leave that one out. That one was incredible. In fact, me and my wife do that one a lot. Like I said, that tandem bike, I could not recommend that collapsible tandem bike that I mentioned before. If you go back and listen to the episode we did on summer date ideas, I even linked that exact bike in the show notes of the episode. So if you want to buy the same exact bike as Lainey and I, you can go to that episode and click that link, get it there on Amazon Prime shipping, I'm pretty sure, for I think it was like under $500. So not bad, especially considering like a Walmart bicycle. If you were going to buy 2 of them, to do a biking date, just separately on separate bikes from your significant other, it'd be like $130 or $140 a piece. So $280. Yeah, we'll get you a bike that you can do a solo date on. So that's a cheaper alternative, but a tandem biking experience is something that she's going to remember, and not in a bad way. People think it's terribly hard to work with your partner and balance and stuff like this. It's really not. You just have to. My wife had never even ridden a bike before. She couldn't ride a bike, but we did that and it went off without a hitch. So don't worry about that. Would recommend it if you're interested. But this has been an awesome episode, guys. Hope it's generated some ideas for you. If it has, reach out and let me know, number 1, which one you picked. Tell me which date you picked. If you've gone on the date, tell me how it went, or when you go on the date, tell me how it went. And then number 3, tell me kind of if you had any great date ideas listening to my voice that you would like to share with the other men listening to this show. Again, 80% of our listeners are young men ages 18 to 24. So if you have something that would help them definitely send that voice message in. You can do that through the link in the show notes, telling us, what that date idea was or how your date went or something that you found that we should avoid in our future dates. So we would love that. So thank you guys so much for considering that. Follow the show on Instagram and Facebook if you're interested in getting to know us there as well. We would love to get to know you, and we will talk to you all next time.